Well, good morning, traders. And a number of factors that I really want to touch on. The first one is what's happening in China. Obviously, the data flow yesterday was largely positive, but I think what's catching more attention is the big moves we're seeing in some of the equity markets, specifically in the Chinex markets, which is the high innovation market. You know, something that we don't offer to clients, but certainly we saw some reasonable moves in the CSI 300 and also the A50. And I think that's a clear reflection of the National Work Conference that we saw over the weekend, where we saw behind closed doors news trickling out that they plan to set up a task force to look at the various regulatory risks that we're seeing there and the systematic risks within the financial system. And there will be tighter regulatory policy coming through as a result of this over the medium to longer term. The Chinese retail trader, which of course makes up the bulk of the market, they're really seeing this as a negative for them to hold equity. And what we do see in that situation is this rotation trade taking underway, where people have been taking money out of the equity market and to a degree cryptocurrencies. I think it's part of the reason why we saw ETH and Bitcoin under big pressure yesterday. And I think they've moved their money clearly into the commodity space, where we saw Dalian iron ore futures having an absolute joyful day yesterday, as did we saw them from some other bulk commodities as well. So watch the commodity space today. But certainly I think there's been a rotation out of equity because of the perception of tighter policy going forward as a result. Now the headlines we've just seen coming out of the market there is in the People's Daily is suggestive that the regulatory bodies there will implement tighter monetary or more prudent policy with a certain firmness, and we're not really quite sure what firmly means, but it sounds very sinister and certainly scare sort of few retail traders into taking further equity positions off the table there and potentially put them back into the commodity market. So that would be one to watch. Keep an eye on the Dalian futures because they are breaking out. They have broken out quite nicely. They look quite bullish at the moment. Now, how does that feed into our market today? I think that sort of feeds into the next story. We have seen Rio coming out with production numbers this morning. We're not quite sure how the stock trades. It doesn't look like it's going to be taken that well. We have seen the numbers coming out for iron ore coming out just above 77 million tonnes. The market was looking for about 81 million tonnes. So will that see modest downgrades to potential EPS with the company? Perhaps. But they have lowered their full year estimates as well, I think, to the lower end of the guidance. So that may not be taken that particularly well by the market. Although at the same time, we have seen iron ore prices moving a little bit higher, so that's going to sort of offset that negativity. Elsewhere, I think you've seen a bit of a move lower in oil prices. No real rhyme or reason behind that. So that may weigh on the energy sector, which has really been a very strong performer here in Australia over the last 5 days. Gold continues to move up a little bit here. I think maybe some Chinese money flowing back into gold as well. We have seen nominal and real rates moving a little bit lower as well, which I think is probably the key driver. As I say, not a huge amount to drive the US dollar going for this week because there's no Fed speakers, there's no real data to key off. In terms of US markets, well, they've closed flat. That's providing the SPI futures with an unchanged read as well. And we have seen Netflix coming out after session. Big flow coming into Netflix as well. That's come out with some really cracking numbers. Good cash flow estimates coming through. They've seen good net subscriber views coming through as well, and the ads as well have really pushed up quite nicely. So after hours, we've seen a lot of business in that stock, and certainly the market's been very happy to buy that one as well. So expecting some follow through buying there. It's one to be long, I think, in the short term here, as certainly one of those shorts covering in that stock as well. Elsewhere, not a lot really to drive. We've got the RBA minutes coming out at 11:30. We have seen the Aussie dollar after such a strong run giving back a little bit some of those gains, just oscillating around 78 cents at the moment. Probably the bigger move that we've seen in the early sessions this morning has been the Kiwi dollar. That's had a big fall there. CPI numbers coming in at an annualised rate of 1.7%. The market was looking for 1.9. Kiwi dollar's had a big fall. Aussie Kiwis moved up quite nicely on the back of that, so that's one for the radar as well. Apart from that, not really a huge amount to focus on throughout this session. It's going to be a big week again. What we're going to see with the ECB on Thursday, I think that's definitely something to watch out for. And for Aussie dollar traders, on Friday we get a number of RBA speakers coming out. If the Aussie dollar is a concern for them, that is the forum for them to talk it down. So a big risk, and we'll touch on that later in the week.